Hello, and welcome to another reading of Boston Accent. I'm Mark Mattioli, and Boston Accent is available on Amazon.com. Boston Accent is mature subject matter. Mature. We're going to pick up where we left off. Try to get a little deeper into this book. So here we go. Without further ado, 1979 was a roller coaster for ups and downs for me, with huge changes in the lives of both myself and Diana. One night in early April, Diana gave me a ride home from her house where I'd spent the better part of the day drinking with her mother. Both Diana's parents were heavy drinkers, and her mom hit the bottle even harder when her father was away on business. Her mom, Penny, was a good 10 years younger than her father and had become pregnant with Diana's older sister when she was 14. Penny was only 14 years older than me, and when she was buzzed, she would be very touchy-feely and ask me if I thought she was attractive. I looked at Penny the same way I looked at Patrice, who is 16 years older than me. I'm 21 and I'm dating teenage girls. Why would I want to have a physical relationship with a woman in her 30s? I didn't. And I didn't want to mess around with my girlfriend's mom, who also had a husband in the mob. On this particular night, Penny and I are sitting at the kitchen table drinking while Diana is doing her laundry. And Penny drops her lighter and crawls under the table to retrieve it. Instead of coming right out, she slides over in front of me and starts sliding one of her hands up the inside of my thigh when she hits her head on the underside of the table. Penny yells out in pain and lays down on her back, holding her head and checking her hand for blood. Diana comes into the room, sees her mom under the table, and just lays into her. "What the hell are you doing under there? Get up in your chair where you belong." "I dropped my lighter," Penny tells her as she crawls up from under the table and bangs the top of the table a second time, hard enough to knock both our drinks over. "That's it, we have to go. Grab your coat, I'll give you a ride home," Diana says while glaring at her mother. As we get out to Diana's car, I realize I still have beer left in her fridge and run back in to get it. As I re-enter the house, Penny is making herself another drink. I grab my beer, and as I turn to go, Penny asks me for a hug. As I embrace Penny, I feel her place one of her hands on my ass, and she giggles. As I loosen my embrace and pull back to face her, she kisses me sloppily on the mouth. I push her away and say, "I have to go before Diana comes in here looking for me." That's when I notice Diana's 15-year-old sister standing in the doorway, and she says, "Don't let Dad see you doing that." Penny in a drunken whine says, "I'm not doing anything." That's my cue, and I run out the door with my beer. As I climb in the passenger side, Diana is looking at me with a serious expression on her face, and she says, "Took you long enough. What happened?" I shook my head and said, "Nothing. I just said goodbye to your sister." Diana looks me in the eyes as if trying to read my thoughts. She smiles and leans in to kiss me. I just hoped her sister kept her mouth shut. On the way to my house, Diana says she wants to fool around, and we park on a woods road near my house, which is where we have parked many times before. On this particular evening, I did not use a condom, which I seldom did. I used what I called the rhythm method, and pulled out when it was time. The thing I couldn't understand with many young women was that even without protection, when the time came, they would hold me tight and say, "Stay in." I could never understand that way of thinking. To me, that was Russian roulette. Considering all the unprotected sex I had over the last 5 years, I was very lucky no one had gotten pregnant, and lucky I hadn't caught anything. My luck was about to change. I was very buzzed that night in the car with Diana and did not remember not pulling out until she took me down memory lane 6 weeks later when it was confirmed she was pregnant. These were very stressful times for both our families as they were anything but supportive. And our parents told Diana to get an abortion. Diana had asked me to marry her, and I said no. I felt emotionally we were both too young to raise a child. We were also both unemployed, and I was not willing to make that commitment to her. Both sides of the family sided with me against her, and she decided to move out of her parents' house and move in with her cousins in the nearby town of Brockway and have the baby. I didn't see it at the time, but I had become my father. I had not been there when Diana needed me, just like my father had deserted my mother. So now Diana has settled in with her cousins, and when I want to see her, I must travel the much longer ride to pick her up and bring her back to my neighborhood. She no longer has access to her car, which is registered to her mother. Her parents have basically disowned her and treat her badly during her pregnancy. One night we went out with Jake and Karen in the van, and although Diana wasn't drinking, I was drinking enough for both of us. Jake was always very opinionated and didn't know when to mind his own business. He started in on me regarding Diana, my future, and the future of the baby. I told him to drop the subject, that if I wanted his opinion, I would ask for it. We had gotten into that fight in high school when he stuck his nose in my business, and I sensed another one coming. As much as I had to drink, I should have chose another course of action, but my temper got the best of me again, and in anger and frustration, I began to try and kick out the van's windows. Jake pulled over, we got out, and we fought. Jake really took advantage of my drunken state and punched me several times in the face. This all took place in the middle of the street in a residential neighborhood, and someone called the cops. When the cops showed up and they saw how bloodied my face was and how intoxicated I was, they gave Jake a real hard time. The cops knew me, and they told Jake he was no friend of mine but a coward, which I agree with now, but it took me years to see it. Jake dropped Diana and I off at my house so I could get cleaned up and get some sleep. This was on a Saturday. The following Monday, I had a job interview at Portnoy Pilgrimage, a living museum portraying pilgrim life in the 1600s. The job was another AV tech position, and I wanted it bad. The problem was I had 2 black eyes from Jake. I was the definitive of a bad first impression. As I arrived for my interview, with my resume in hand, I looked in my rearview mirror, saw how bad I looked, and I made a last-second decision to wear dark sunglasses during my interview. It was the most awkward job interview of my life to this day. My interviewer was a woman named Stella, who would be my boss should I get the position. She never asked me about the glasses, but was giving me this look during the interview that said, "What could possibly possess you to wear dark sunglasses to a job interview?" On the one hand, I had a great resume, and I was winning her over with what I had to say, but she still had that expression on her face that said, "What's with the glasses?" Finally, when I felt that any chances of me winning this position rested on me addressing the eyewear, I said, "I just want you to know I'm wearing these glasses because I had an accident, and my appearance is a little shocking." I took off the glasses, revealing my 2 shiners. Oh boy, those are beauties. How did it happen? This I wasn't prepared for, and the first thing out of my mouth was, "Skiing accident. I lost a ski and it hit me right between the eyes." "Ouch, you're lucky you didn't lose an eye," she said. And I said, You're not kidding. I've always been a terrible liar, and I could feel my Pinocchio nose growing right before her eyes. Stella seemed to warm up to me after my story, and I left there feeling a little more positive about my chances. I got the call that evening that the job was mine if I still wanted it, and I accepted. This job would turn out to be even more fun than the last one. I didn't have to drive an RV. One of my main responsibilities was putting together a multi-image slideshow for a theater in the complex and recording 17th century music for the exhibit halls. I soon found out that half the people at the museum got high, and I started coming to work stoned. I had a recording studio, and I would lock myself in there and record music all day. Some of the music was for the museum, but most of it was for my own personal collection. But I wanted to stretch my legs. I would walk down through the village, which was a recreation of a street in the early 1600s. I was having fun again and getting paid for it. On the home front, I was spending less and less time keeping in contact with Diana. It wasn't just me, it was mutual. We were drifting apart. I decided to seek new female companionship, and the museum was loaded with young women employees. Okay, we're coming into a long story here. We got some good ones. We get some good ones from this Living Pilgrim Museum. We got a couple of good stories. We're going to save those for tomorrow. I think that's enough for today. All right. We're reading Boston Accent. I'm Mark Mattioli. Boston Accent is available on Amazon.com. And we'll see you tomorrow, God willing. Ciao.